Good morning, everyone. Here today we should talk about feedback control system. Here before we new knowledge, a question for you. Here you can imagine that many cars and many bars in the streets. So can you tell me what's the most important? Why here are too much cars, too much bars in the streets? Why the traffic will be as much as the here? We mean that the traffic lights and the policeman is very important. Do you agree with me? So what do you mean? Here we can just imagine the traffic policeman and the traffic lights control the cars, control the bars. At the same time, we also mean that here is a kind of feedback control system. So what is feedback? Let's see. When we mean feedback means controlled system will be feedback to control system. Here, activities between these two systems, we name it feedback. Here we should discuss about two kinds of types of feedback. We can divide it into negative feedback and positive feedback. Let's see the negative feedback first. So what is negative feedback? Just for example, when you are just deep in some question, you didn't mention other things, but at the same time, when someone wants to give you a prize and just make a joke for you, he just tap your shoulders from your back just by a sudden time. Maybe at the just moments, the blood pressure of you will increase. But can you tell me, just from this kind of process, just from this activity, when you become to a hypertension? No, everyone will know this. Just under circumstance, this kind of person will not turn to be a hypertension. And most important, women mean this kind of person, the blood pressure will increase, but it will decrease to normal, at least in 10 minutes. So, what exerts physiology function? Here, we mean negative feedback. So, what is negative feedback? Here, we mean here is cardiovascular center in our body. It will control the blood pressure in our vessels. So in this way, blood pressure is very normal. It is constant. But sometimes there is variation. Maybe our blood pressure will increase just by sudden surprise. But this kind of signal will be negative feedback to the cardiac vascular center. And when it receives this signal, it will regulate the continuous activity of our hearts and at the same time of our vessels. So in this way, we mean the former activities and the continuous activity direction are just contrary to each other. And through this kind of regulation, we mean that finally it will be kept constant. And this kind of activity, we name it negative feedback. And after we know negative feedback, what do you think about temperature? Sometimes we mean that, especially in hot summer, that our body temperature will increase. But does this mean we just got a fever? No, it's wrong. And we can see that in hot summer, maybe the body temperature will increase. But during a period of time, our body temperature will decrease. And it will be kept in a constant scope. It will be decreased to normal states. So what happened here? Maybe here we should talk about in our body, here is a temperature center. It will control the temperature of different parts of our body. And when body temperature is elevated, these signals will be feedback to our body temperature center. And in this way, it will regulate the activity of the former parts. And we also mean that here the former activity and the continuous activity are just contrary to each other. And through this kind of regulation, that our body temperature will be kept as constants. So this is also a kind of negative feedback. After we talk about negative feedback, we should talk about the other one, that is positive feedback. So what is positive feedback? Maybe just for example, for coagulation. You should know that coagulation in blood is very important. It can keep the volume of our blood in a constant one. But sometimes we should see that it's also a kind of feedback. Why? Here you should see that many coagulation factors in coagulation process. Here, many coagulation factors are active one by one. And in this process, we may see that the former activity and the continuous activity, the direction of them are just same. They are not contrary to each other. If the directions of the former activity and continuous activity are just contrary to each other, just like negative feedback, maybe it will be very troublesome. Why? We see that coagulation factor 2, maybe in normal condition, is active by X coagulation factor. Maybe here the direction of these two kind of coagulation factor are the same. If just like negative feedback, they are contrary to each other, we mean that coagulation factor 2 will not be active. So in this way, our blood will still be a kind of fluid. It cannot inhibit the loss of our blood. So in this way, we may mean coagulation, blood coagulation, is a kind of negative feedback. Except blood coagulation, for our urine, the production of the urine, the secretion of urine, and other examples, just like the ash excretion, is just also positive feedback. That's just contrary to negative feedback. We mean the former activity and the latter activity are just in the same direction. They are strengthened one by one. That is positive feedback. Okay, problem is coming. There are two kinds of feedback, negative feedback and positive feedback. What's the physiology meaning of these two? We mean that negative feedback. We mean that the former activity and the latter are just contrary to each other. So the physiology meaning is just to keep the constant state of our body. And very different from negative feedback for positive feedback. It's very different. It's just it's just destroying the stability. It's just strengthen the physiology processes and promotes the performance of our physiology process. Okay, that is feedback. For negative feedback and for positive feedback.